from the vault, high atop the pastoral center of the Diocese of Camden, you're listening to Talking Catholic.
Hello, everybody. Welcome once again to Talking Catholic. I'm Pete Sanchez, and as always, here on this crisp October day with Mike Walsh. Mike, how are you?
I'm fine. We're sharing a microphone, so there may be some pauses between us because this is a very special podcast where we're on the road again. As we're no, you can't give it back to us, Luisa. You got to hold on to it. We have one person who's trying to jump ship already on the podcast, and we're making her stay. But no, it's a very special Out of the Vault podcast where we're over at our beloved Catholic Charities on the other side of the city of Camden. And we're going to have a bunch of guests on that we're very, very pleased about. But we have a few things coming up, and what's coming down the pike that people should know about.
Thanks, Mike. There's a lot of good stuff coming up. October 26th, the Bishop Sullivan will celebrate the 4 Days for Life vigil at right outside, right near Christ Our Light in Cherry Hill. Praise and witness outside an abortion clinic to raise the voice for life during this month, Respect Life Month. So park at the Christ Our Light, and you're going to walk a block south to the site and join Bishop Sullivan and others in praying for life. This is October 26th, starting at 11 a.m. in Cherry Hill. And Mike, we've talked about this numerous times. The Man Up Conference is coming up next month, November 10th, Saturday, at the conference at Paul VI High School, 901 Hopkins Road, B in Haddonfield. Speakers, sessions, reconciliation, reflections are all on tap for this day-long conference. I'm going to be there. I don't know about you. I'm assuming you'll be there. Mike, you're a man.
Yes. And apparently that is the only bar that is required to come into this thing, in which case I've met it. Yes, and as a matter of fact, I'm one of the people planning it, so I think they're going to make me show up. But it really is a great event. The speakers are going to be wonderful. We've already got well over 200 people signed up for the conference with another 6 weeks to go. So registrations are still available. Plenty of room for people who are interested. A ton of Knights of Columbus groups, St. Vincent de Paul Society groups, individuals, deacons, priests. It's a great sort of cut and varying ages, young people, senior citizens. So there's a lot of people who are coming, and I really hope people will at least come to check it out, because honestly, there are very few Catholic events that are specifically geared towards men that are of a spiritual nature. And I really think that the men of the diocese will get a lot out of this. But more importantly, will bring the things they learn at the conference back into the parishes, hopefully, I pray, to actually bring to other men and encourage them, not necessarily to come to the conference again next year, and this will be an annual conference, we hope, but to live these things out in their daily lives. So there's a ton of really great opportunities for learning and engagement and spiritual well-being that I really think people should avail themselves of. So I will definitely be there. I'm going to make you be there, so I know you're going to be there. I know I didn't have to. I think these news items will go a lot faster because we only have one microphone, so we can't do nearly as much crosstalk and criticism and sarcasm. But anyway, so what's coming up after that?
Well,
oh wait, did you give a manupsouthjersey.com for more information? All right, there you go.
Thank you, Mike. You just took the words right out of my mouth. I'm excited for that. That's November 10th, Saturday, in Haddonfield at the Conference Center at Paul VI. Come on out. Say hello to Mike and I. Tell us how much you love the show. And on Saturday, October 13th, coming up very soon, I'm very excited for the Marian pilgrimage to the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. This takes place every 2 years. It's just come see Bishop Sullivan will celebrate Mass. There's going to be time for the Rosary, to visit the various shrines and crypts to the Blessed Virgin, who is the namesake of our diocese, patroness of our diocese, and the patroness of the United States of America. So come on out and join Bishop Sullivan, priests of the diocese, clergy, religious, and faithful. I'm excited for this. And numerous... Well, I was going to say that if you want to sign up, a lot of various parishes are allowing you to do... Various parishes are sending buses to Washington, D.C. for this. So contact your own parish office or call 856-939-1769 to see where a bus might be to get on. I will be leaving from one of the parishes. I'm excited.
You're not going to tell people which parish it is?
Christ the Redeemer in Atco, where Lori Power, the friend of the show, and my co-host with Talking Saints, is she ministers at. I think St. and Father Chris Mann. We're all going to be on the same bus. It's going to be exciting, Mike. And I'm sorry. It sounds like plans have not. You cannot be there. I'm sorry.
Yes, I'm incredibly disappointed that I will not be at the Marian pilgrimage this year for the second time in a row. So I want everyone to go for me and take lots of photographs because I will be back here checking everything out on social media. So make sure you post to and tag the Camden Diocese in your social media so that we can see them. We're on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, as is Talking Catholic on all those things. So you can tag either one of us, either one of those entities, and I will see them because I monitor everything, and I will retweet what we see or share or all that kind of stuff. So make sure you do that, and Pete will be down there live tweeting, probably putting up some interviews with people. So if you see Pete and he hasn't already asked you to be on an interview, tell him, hey, interview me, and so that he'll interview you for the social media. Right, Pete? You're agreeable to that, right?
I want to meet everybody. It's just such a nice day. I wrote an article a few weeks ago about the importance of a pilgrimage. It's just something to get away from the stresses that can form in everyday life. I'm excited for this. Just a spiritual refresher to kind of put my mind in a sacred space such as the Basilica, pray in front of the crypts, just pray in front of the altar, celebrate Mass, celebrate the Eucharist, just come together with the Church. I'm very excited for that, and I hope others join me. Say hello, and I'll talk to you, and we'll get you on social media. So, Mike, where are we again today? We're not in the vault.
No, we're not in the vault. We have a very special guest with us today. Well, 4 very special guests. Well, 1 very special guest and 3 awesome guests. Maybe that's the best way to put it. No, we have with us today Sister Norma Pimentel, the Executive Director of Catholic Charities of the Rio Grande Valley. Thank you very much for being with us today.
Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. And that's the Diocese of Brownsville, correct?
Diocese of Brownsville, that's correct.
That's right. And you're right there.
All the way South Texas.
That's right.
Border with Mexico.
Just about to say, right on that border. The Rio Grande goes right by your offices, right?
No, the wall does.
Oh, that's right. The wall does. Of course. I was wondering how long it would take us to get to the wall. There we go. Right there. We don't have to dodge it. But we also have 3 other guests with us today who I will ask to introduce themselves as we go down the line just because it makes them more nervous. So the one who's tried to jump ship several times, who is with us today?
Thank you. My name is Luisa Medrano, and I'm the coordinator for the Refugee and Resettlement Program.
You know what else I need you to do, Luisa?
What?
I need you to turn the microphone back on again.
Oh, it's not on?
No. Push it. Is it up?
This one?
Try to.
Is it on now?
Now it's on. So give us your background again.
Luisa Medrano, coordinator for the Refugee and Resettlement Program.
And more importantly to this podcast, or as importantly to this podcast, you were also a pilgrim who went down and worked with Sister Norma for a little while.
Yes, absolutely, and that was amazing.
Yeah,
Sorry.
that's okay. That's all right. We threw you into this with no expectations, so that's fine. If you forget to use your microphone, I'll remind you. Don't worry about it. And to the bloke to your right, if he could introduce himself.
Hello, good afternoon, Kevin Hickey.
Could he also turn on his mic again? Why do these people keep turning off the mics? Okay. Who are you again? I'm sorry, sir.
I am Kevin Hickey,
Oh, that's right.
Executive Director, Catholic Charities, Diocese of Camden.
Thank you, sir. No. Go ahead, Jose. It's your turn. And finally?
Jose Sanchez. I participated in the Brownsville, Texas pilgrimage with Sister Norma.
Twice. Don't downsell yourself. You went as a pilgrim, and then you went as a leader, right? As one of the leaders of the pilgrim of a group.
I was babysitting the Diocese of Metuchen.
Well, the other dioceses need babysitters. I understand. Ours certainly don't.
They're all good people.
The Diocese of Metuchen does. So Sister Norma, you are up here for a couple of reasons. And I commented to you before we hopped on the podcast. I think we're trying to run you ragged. But you agreed to come up for the Justice for All dinner on Thursday, October 4th. And since then, they've thrown 4 or 5 other speaking engagements to you. So we figured at this point, we'll throw a podcast at you as well.
Actually, I'm very happy to be here.
Thank you very much. You were on.
Thank you for the invite.
You were on Morning Joe on MSNBC
yesterday.
Recently too.
Yes, I got invited to be part of that, and it was so good to be able to actually at a very critical and important time of our of now we're having to do with children being sent to these prison camps. It's so sad, and so I'm glad I was able to say a couple of words on that.
Well, that's great. I was very excited to see you on it. I'm curious. We've certainly been doing a lot of praising you for two reasons. One, for the work you've been doing down there, but also because of Mr. Hickey's plan to send pilgrims from the Diocese of Camden down to be of assistance and to learn what's going on down there. But before we ever got to that, you made the decision to create a respite center right there on the border to work with the immigrants who were crossing over. I'm curious, could you give us the background of sort of like
Yes,
what
of
made
course.
you?
Well, back in 2014, we had a massive wave of children, unaccompanied children. They were classified as unaccompanied because it came with somebody else other than their mom or dad, maybe an older brother, an aunt, a grandma, and the government separates them for protection purposes. And the children ended up in these detention facilities under the care of ORR, and so the families, those children that did come with mom and dad, are given permission to continue their deportation proceedings somewhere else in the United States. And those families end up with us before they move on their journey. And we as a church have responded to reach out to them and provide them with the essential needs, basic human needs, where we provide them with something to eat, an opportunity to take a shower, get clean clothing, getting connected with their families, and all of this that is so essential for a person to kind of like find themselves amongst people that care, and that's what we do.
How many? Is there numbers? How many you've helped over?
We've helped so many people since day one in 2014. June of 2014, we started receiving people at maybe 200 at a time. And to this day, we've continued to see families every single day, no exception. Some numbers they have dropped maybe a little bit sometimes to maybe 50 or something like that, around those numbers. But we're back up to 200, 300 every single day. And we're way over 100,000 since 2014 that we started helping families.
So I'm curious, Kevin, when did you first hear about Sister Norma's Respite Center and then make the decision that, hey, this might be a good idea of something we can help with?
It was 2014 when the Catholic Charities Network around the country became aware that Sister Norma and her Catholic Charities staff were being overwhelmed, I think, with people walking up from Central America, Mexico. And so the word went out, and I knew Sister Norma, and I thought, let's respond. So Brian Wagner from Catholic Charities went down there along with his wife, Nancy. And I got to tell this story because Sister is very persuasive. So he went down there, Michael, for 2 weeks, don't you know? But as the 2 week was approaching, I get a call from Brian who says, you're going to get a call from Sister Norma. It's like, and I knew. So Sister Norma called, and with that she has such a lovely, gentle voice. Kevin, we really need help, and don't you think it'd be a good idea if Brian stayed another 2 weeks? I said yes.
Thank you, Kevin. Actually, it was wonderful to have both Nancy and both of them there with us, during that first time. It was a time where we really needed a lot of help, and Camden came through.
There we go. Thank you for that endorsement. And Brian's own, I don't know what the word is, but obviously he said yes. And whatever happened to him down there, I recognize was a powerful experience, and I thought, boy, it'd be wonderful if we could send people down there from the Camden Diocese.
And just to give an idea of, this is not uncommon for the A, Catholic Charities, and B, Catholic Charities of Camden. You've often sent your folks to deploy whenever there's disaster or need, right?
I do that. I feel that it's a wonderful opportunity for staff to learn about other Catholic charity agencies, learn about their own skills, and also connect with our Catholicity as a Catholic faith-based social service agency. And so there's just really unique opportunities. And my two colleagues here, I think, are examples of that.
And what can we talk? Both of you, Jose and Luisa, have been on what they call the Share the Journey pilgrimages, correct?
That is correct.
And so, when did you go, Jose?
I participated the first time. It was closer to the middle of August, about a month and a half ago, for 5 days.
And describe that experience. How was it?
Well, it's when we coming to the Catholic Charities at the Diocese of Brownsville. One was that when we went to the place or to the respite center, there was a lot of people there. There seemed to be a whole lot of people there, and we were there since around 2:00 in the afternoon until about 9:00 in the evening. And people came in and people came out, and part of our job was to one, connect with family members, as Sister Norma said, particularly with myself and Luisa speaking Spanish. We're able to connect a little bit easier with family members and ensuring that they did get what they needed and that their language barrier was taken care of. So that's part of the work that we did there.
They come from such Central America, like Honduras, El Salvador.
That's correct.
Guatemala, I think.
On the second trip that I participated in with the Diocese of Metuchen, we came across with some people from South America, but they had a dialect that wasn't completely Spanish. I'm not completely sure what it was, but I had a little difficult time in getting the information to them. But it ended up that there was a lot of the young people there were versed in Spanish, and some spoke a little bit of English, which allowed us to get the information to them.
That's wonderful. And you've been making many trips you've been with Catholic Charities for a number of years.
That's correct. Mr. Hickey has been gracious enough to allow me to give some assistance in New Orleans. We participated there for like about three times. We also went to Lake Charles, Louisiana, as part of organizing a warehouse for Hurricane Rita, which was the lesser-known hurricane after Katrina.
So this is this is just what Catholic Charities does. It's kind of we're going to McAllen, Texas, to the diocese. This every day, reaching out, traveling, helping out people.
Well, that's correct. I don't think it's completely just Catholic Charities. I think it's the goodness of the people that the organization hires. These people are able to and contribute their time above and beyond the 40 hours that we're here. So it is a group of people that are especially adept to coming to this organization and doing the work that they're called to do, but also assisting in other places where they're needed.
Thank you. And Luisa, describe your experience going to Texas. When did you go?
I also went with Mr. Sanchez. We went August 19th, and we were there for 5 days. It was intriguing, and it was just an amazing overall trip. We had about 12-hour days, so when we got back, we were exhausted. But helping out and just seeing the changes in these people's faces when you gave them clean clothes so they can shower, or a plate of food, just the little things, or if we spent some time with the children playing in the play area, that's priceless.
So, Sister Norma, I'm curious, as this originally started up in 2014, and we're now 5 years removed from it. What kind of changes have happened in the last 5 years that might be of note since you began the respite center, and sort of how have you handled them?
Well, when we started at a parish hall there in our town, and it's just a couple of blocks from the bus station where the families were arriving, and we were seeing them there just abandoned and with great need of help. And my first response was to contact the local parish, and ask the priest to let me borrow his parish hall for a couple of days. Turns out that I was a couple of years later that I was still there. for parish. And honestly, this parish were true champions because they sacrificed their parish hall for us, and day in day out for 3 years. And then I decided that we definitely needed to move from that space, and so now we are in a different location, a much smaller space. And that has always been a great struggle, because families continue to come every single day in great numbers, and the needs is there. And to now be located in a space that is so reduced and very close to the bus station, but still reduced. And so we are now looking to build a space that is dignified for receiving families with great dignity and respect, and be a space that the community can have to respond in a humanitarian way to individuals, families that need our help. And so the struggle has always been there throughout the years to make sure we have a personal space for this purpose, and hopefully we can do that within the next couple of years or so.
Yeah, so this is certainly not a need that you expect to see lessening as we move
At this
along.
point, it doesn't look like it's lessening. It doesn't matter what kind of deterrence policies this administration has tried to do to avoid people from coming, to try to deter them from coming. It doesn't work. The fact is that these folks are pushed out of their country. They're forced to leave because of the circumstances they're facing in their country. Until we address that and we own that reality, when we start to find solutions to make sure these countries are safe, these families are going to continue to expose to themselves to danger, and we will continue to see them in our communities needing our help.
And the impression that I've gotten, certainly speaking to the pilgrims who have come back, who have spoken to the people who have come across the border, where they've come from is so much worse than anything they could deal with here crossing the border.
Right, totally. We think of Afghanistan, Iraq as being very dangerous countries that we would never even dare go ourselves. Well, these countries are categorized as even more dangerous than those countries as well. So the reasons why these families leave: to save their children. They don't want their child to die, and so they dare risk their lives and enter into this journey for that reason.
And Kevin, thinking back to the Share the Journey initiative that Pope Francis called us all towards, almost over a year ago now. Can you excuse me? Catholic Charities, Diocese of Camden has been working with migrants and refugees for years, and even with the changes in administration in the last 2 years, the need, while it may have diminished in some capacities, because certainly in the refugee spectrum, the need hasn't gone away, right?
No, certainly. I mean, we know, I think the figure is 61 million people. And the thing that always struck me about Pope Francis is the first trip he took was to the island in Lampedusa. And that made a powerful impression on me. Because for me, the Holy Father was reminding me, all of us, that this is possibly the most pressing issue facing the world, that and the environment. And in fact, I think Laudato Si was probably influenced by Pope's thinking about what accounts for this migration that Sister just described, coming from the south to the north here in the Western Hemisphere. But this is happening everywhere. People are leaving, and some of it's environmental, some of it's economic injustice, criminal gangs, that kind of thing. So, and yes, our refugee resettlement program has kept this issue front and center because we see it every day.
Yeah, and I'm curious, Luisa and Jose, as people who have been down there, I know Mary McCusker, our colleague Mary McCusker, frequent guest on the podcast, who was able to get out of this one for once because she had other work she had to do. Otherwise, she would have been here too. One of the things she remarked to me when she came back was also the area down there and meeting a lot of people who were still living in the area, regardless of what their citizenship was, and that she found it quite moving to see the cultural differences from up here in the Northeast to the border. I'm curious, did either of you get that impression as well, that you were sort of in a whole new world? I know there was one element that really struck me about related to the wall itself that does exist down there, and that there are American citizens on the other side of the wall, that a wall that went up while they're still there, and they need a passcode to get in and out out from behind the wall, right?
Well, when we took the visits and we visited a couple of the parishes down in the Brownsville area, what struck me was the dedication that the people had to their church parish and their church community and to each other. And I thought that was something that was special. And here's the contrast, that over here, I guess in the city, we don't see ourselves as that connected to the community. But my guess is that because of all their common struggles, that they feel that that's a need and that's something to happen. So the individuals are taking care of each other's children, and so on, and making sure if they learn a little bit of information to make sure that they share it. But what I did think was extremely powerful was the dedication that they had to the Catholic community over there, where everything looks extremely poor, but they're contributing their times and talents and wealth to building a new church because theirs is deteriorated. So I thought that was very powerful.
And Luisa?
I'd have to agree with Mr. Sanchez. Their sense of togetherness was really amazing. And they spoke about having a lot of fears because there's a lot of cartel and a lot of drugs in that area. And there's the Border Patrol's constantly, the way that they experienced it was that the Border Patrol's constantly within their property. They just walk in or drive up, they drive through, destroying property, not necessarily asking or paying for the repairs or anything of that sort. So they kind of work together to kind of watch each other's backs. Yeah.
It sounds like such almost, Sister Norma, well, can you describe that balance that needs to be maintained? You were talking about, Luisa was talking about the cartels, that balance between the balance between safety and also our moral obligation as Catholics to help others.
I think you're right. We have an obligation to both. It is important that we keep our country safe and that our borders are safe. And I actually, myself, being from the border and living all my life at the border, I believe that our valley is one of the safest areas in the United States. And it really is. If you look statistics, the crime rate has really dropped significantly, but of course we live right up by the border, and it's important that our border patrol continue to patrol our borders and keep the border. We should know who enters our country, and that is essential. But we must separate it from the criminal element to the families that are actually coming.
Yeah.
Asking for protection and safety. There's two different types of populations of people entering our country, and we have a responsibility to care for those families who are in search of life, an opportunity to be safe. And so I think we have a moral obligation to them.
And what does it mean, Kevin? How many pilgrims from our diocese have participated in the Share the Journey?
50.
50? And
I just had a follow-up question because you were actually going down a line, but I wanted to check. We've now sent 50 pilgrims down, and the thing that's amazed me from it are the people who have come back with completely different perspectives. And we've sent people down who are on the spectrum of political persuasion, right? Far left to far right. But every single person I've spoken to has been really touched by it, and several of them have said that the visit to the border has actually changed how they'll vote in years down the road, or how they will, not necessarily how they'll vote, but what the thought process they'll put into how they'll vote and how they'll live their lives and what they'll engage with. And I'm curious, I've only had an opportunity to speak to a handful of people. Have you noticed that these pilgrimages down, that you've seen the pilgrims coming back, has changed people or educated people at least?
I think educated. My whole goal, and Sister Norma is the perfect. Well, she earlier told us that all she did was say yes. Well, because she said yes, and if you just heard Sister's remarks about the border, people need to go down there and see this and be overwhelmed, be perplexed, be bewildered, because this is really complicated, and it's not simple. These are people. You can't reduce it to slogans, and so everything you just said is what I had hoped for. That was my whole goal, not to, that people would vote a certain way, but people would realize these are people. This is a really complex problem. I'm part of it because I'm a citizen of this country and of the world, and because Catholics, of course, we believe in solidarity. So I don't know if you had any reaction to what I just said, but.
Well, I truly believe that when we see for ourselves the human reality, what we have before us, that we have a more responsibility towards, we will be better prepared to respond to what our call is, to how we should vote, and who we should vote for, who our leaders need to be, that really stand up and represent us through our values, and who United States is. And I one of the things that really, just being there at the border and experiencing the families and just seeing with my own eyes, the men that I see before me, the dads, fathers. I have an image of a father holding a child that is not older than 5 years old, that's crying, and this dad is holding the child in his arms. He himself is crying, comforting the little boy so that this little boy can feel protected and saved and cared for. And this little boy is not even his son, and he has that care and compassion for another little boy because this little boy is crying. This is the kind of dads that I see on a daily basis that are coming into our country, and they're asking for help.
And that really is what I found to be sort of the key to all of this. Is very much a response to a human condition. Not there was no political thought in your mind when you put together the respite center. You saw a need and you met it. And Kevin, you've done that repeatedly up here at Catholic Charities. When Superstorm Sandy hit, it wasn't a political agenda to go send people down to be of support. There was a need, and we had to fill it. And unfortunately, I've just lost my train of thought. However, let's see. Oh, man, I completely lost my train of thought. I had something powerful to say, and I completely forgot what I was going to say. I hate it when that happens.
It's not political.
But it's definitely not political. Oh, that's what it was. Thank you. Thank you, Sister Norma. Thank you for reminding me. No, what I was going to say is the Catholic element of this is we often, being the communications director for the diocese, I tend to get, I'm usually at the complaint department. Myself and the bishop's office, we get all the complaints. And what I often enjoy is when we have something particularly notable happen in the Catholic Church, and we come out with a strong stance, for instance, related to migration and immigration. I will get 50% of the phone calls will be the incredible support we have. And 50% of the calls of people, why are you dealing with this? There are other things we need to be worried about. Don't worry about people who aren't even citizens. And what I found, and Kevin, I think this is one of the main, certainly a tenet of Catholic Charities, and certainly something you preach on a regular basis, is, listen, we don't do these things because they're politically motivated. We do these things because we're Catholic, and we are compelled to do them, not by a pope or a bishop or the USCCB, but by our inner nature as Catholics, correct? I mean, you often will preach this to me.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. And I, if you don't mind, I'm referencing Sister Norma's remarks earlier today to the Catholic Charities staff of the Diocese of Camden, and where she was describing her own moment of saying yes, and this was when her younger years, and that's what we're trying to do here. We're looking for opportunities to say yes. the person to my left is being confronted pretty regularly now with opportunities to say yes. And
for the podcast listeners who can't see who's to his left, he's referring to Luisa.
yes. And I will embarrass her. This is a gifted person who I'm determined to keep pushing into leadership because she's an influencer, she's a leader, and that's what we're doing every day when we're working with people. Jose is a remarkable the way he ministers. I say minister to people when he goes out and they are donating furniture, and he comes across all manner of family issues, which he or lonely elderly people, and he's the stories of him and Mustafa, just how they minister, are just remarkable. And he could say, "Now put it on the truck, I got to get going," but he says yes to the moment.
And Kevin, I have to say,
For anyone who's wondering,
Yes.
Kevin gave Jose the mic, hoping that he would speak, and chose not to. Jose being a man of few words and preferring to do work on actions.
The John Wayne of Catholic Charities.
is this Jose? Yeah, this is the first time we've had two Sanchez's on the podcast together. We're not related.
I'm happy to be here. We should do this more.
I agree. Sanchez and
Let's
Sanchez.
take Mr. Walsh out the picture.
Yeah.
Done and done.
But Kevin, that's one of the things I love about you guys and this office with Jose, soft-spoken, but big heart. You too, and it just seems whenever I'm in this building, we Mike and I work in a building about 20 minutes away, but coming here, I'm always love the energy and the vitality. Always, every time I come in, there's just so much life among Catholic Charities. I love because I'm trying to bring it back in my heart. And Sister Norma, what does it mean to you to have had the pilgrims from South Jersey come to Texas?
Isn't it amazing that two dioceses so separate from each other, completely almost in opposite poles, at least all the way South Texas and all the ways almost to the east, of this country, and we can be one church together. It's amazing. It's such a witness to show the world that we are one. And we can be one, especially in these times when we are living such a historical moments of the immigrant communities coming to our country, and we can share their journey.
And so, Kevin, tonight or tomorrow night, Sister, you'll be honored at the 15th Annual Justice for All Awards Dinner. And Kevin, can you speak about that? What was the perfect choice getting Sister Norma here?
That's funny you say that, Peter. Somebody in the a room, we've just had lunch with Sister, and one of our colleagues here at Catholic Charities said, "What a perfect choice to honor in Sister Norma." And I see Jose sitting to my right, nodding his head. I'll say this, Sister, on behalf of Jose, he came back and he was moved and wowed by his experience of both being there and meeting you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Jose. It was wonderful to meet you and to have you down in the valley and to bring us together.
Well, one of the things I said to Mr. Hickey, Sister, is that when I met you and I noticed the mannerism of what you were doing, but then I also was able to stay way in the back and see how big that work was. And that you were able just to take it one little step at a time and not to get overwhelmed because you were the person in charge, and how all the other people were falling into place to make sure that work happens. So when I did come over here and I said to Mr. Hickey, I like her. And I think that because the way I talk about some people sometimes, Mr. Hickey thought that was a really good compliment to give you.
Thank you.
The rarely complimentary nor effusive Jose Sanchez. Yes, that is true.
Pete, just to go back to the dinner, it's a very important event, and so we're really grateful for Sister Norma helping us. All the money we use, Peter, is used for direct assistance to poor and vulnerable people in the 6 counties of the Diocese of Camden. So we don't keep any of it. It gets pushed out the door. This is, bread from heaven. It's really important to us.
And the time when this podcast will go up next week, so at that time the event will have already happened. But we do know that it's another banner event. More than 400 tickets have been sold for it. We'll be honoring 6 sets of Disciples of Mercy and a special Share the Journey recipient this year as well, in addition to Sister Norma. So it's always a great event, and this year it'll be in Atlantic City. Who knows where we'll put it next year, but it'll go somewhere. Or then it'll go to Atlantic City again. I don't know, man. We'll keep it there. Everyone seems to be happy in Atlantic City. I'm happy. It was my idea. I love it there. I just know how people get.
That makes perfect sense, Mike. You're happy because it was your idea.
That is true.
So,
That's a very good point, sir.
that too. I joke, Mr. Walsh. I love it. Everybody's so formal. There's Mr. Sanchez. There's Mr. Hickey. I love him, the Mr. Walsh now.
I'm fine with that. You can call me Mr. Walsh. I'm fine.
Okay. But Kevin, or Mr. Hickey, if people listening to the show want to help out in some way with Catholic Charities, where can they go? How can they assist and help, join in the good work?
Or perhaps even more directly related to the podcast, if somebody wants to go down to South Texas and be amongst our pilgrims, how can they do that?
They should call me up, 342-4102, or call Mary McCusker at
something, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
She's on the website. Don't worry. But they're both on the website.
It's 342-8846.
Thank you.
I only know that because I just called her the other day.
All right, yeah, that's good. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, I knew it had all those 4 numbers in there. I couldn't remember. And of course, a lot of information on the pilgrimages are on their website as well. Yeah.
CatholicCharitiesCamden.org?
That's correct, Peter. Yes. Yeah. And this is really, it's aimed at lay faithful, all kinds of lay faithful. I'm very hopeful that people who may think they are very hostile to immigrants or are hostile, they should go down.
I think so too. They need to come see and get their own experience of what it is to be an immigrant, and to get to understand the whole reality before they can come up with a decision in their mind of what this is all about.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I'm aware of, Sister, there's at least a small group who are, we're kind of working on them right now, between Jim Lanahan and myself, that, maybe they'd consider going down there. So now, for that to happen, Sister, you definitely have to be there.
Well, I'll be happy to be there. I hope that I am there when they do come, and let's Holy Spirit touch them and be moved by the Holy Spirit, because the Holy Spirit is what really moves us to do what we do, and if we allow ourselves to be moved by the Holy Spirit, wonderful things happen.
And I know both Pete and I desperately want to go down. I've been a part of your steering committee that helped oversee the pilgrimages, and from the very beginning, I've wanted to go down. So we got to find an opportunity for me, the bishop, the vicar general, get all of us Tony types down there, and see, because I'm truly impressed by everybody who's come back, and Mary McCusker, who's our communications person here at Catholic Charities, is not easily impressed with things, and she was absolutely blown away. And the only person less easily impressed is Jose Sanchez, and the fact that he came back with such a glowing recommendation for you, Sister Norma, is truly impressive. I'm curious. We often ask our guests, sort of their background. What brought you to religious life as a young person, and sort of led you to?
Funny that you ask. I recently got interviewed by the LA magazine. It's a very popular magazine among women, and they did a story on me. And it's so funny how they quoted me, but they quoted me saying that Pizza Hut got Sister Norma into the religious life, and I laughed, because, but the way they capture that quote. But in reality, I had my plans. My plans were I'm an artist. I've known I love to paint and draw, and since day one that I was came into this world, and my first grade teacher had me do a nativity in the whole wall with butcher paper, and I was just a first grader. And since then, I knew that I was an artist. I love art, and I set my focus on doing that as my professional career. Graduated with a Bachelor's of Fine Arts. And my goal was to first move forward in that direction when my dad had other plans for me. And he definitely did not want his daughter to just go off into the world and to see to explore, And so he kind of said, no, you're coming home, my dear sister Norma, And so when I was back home, I needed to find a way to go out because I need to kind of plan my life. And without upsetting my dad, I decided to go out with this friend of mine who was very close to the church and went to prayer groups and this kind of very pious kind of friend that I had. And I called her one day and I asked her, what are you doing tonight, Linda? And she said, I'm going to a prayer group. And what are you going to do after the prayer group? Well, she said, I'm going to Pizza Hut. I said, perfect. Come pick me up after the prayer group. Well, God has his ways of finding us, and he figured that was the only way he was going to get me. And so Pizza Hut did it,
And what brought you to Catholic Charities?
Well, that's, once I entered the religious life, part of my formation was to actually get a master's in theology, and coming back to the diocese, my very first thing, I wanted to work as a counselor, and so right away that was my first choice, and soon enough, after 1 year of working for Catholic Charities, I became administrator of Catholic Charities, and so this is why I'm in Catholic Charities now.
And has it been nice working with Mr. Hickey? Because we can never tell how well he's liked outside of these walls.
Mr. Hickey is quite an inspiration. Since day one, I think he's inspiration to me as somebody new to Catholic Charities. He was true an inspiration and encouragement for me as a young Catholic Charities director to come forward and not be afraid and to speak up.
Well, you've certainly said yes to everything. I mean, you get called out by the Pope on a TV show, and then you end up meeting him a few months later.
It's a wonderful experience to actually be called by a Pope. I can still remember those moments when we were sitting in that church, in Sacred Heart in McAllen, Texas, and we had that satellite 2030 interview with him, and he said, I want to meet that nun, that sister. And I was sitting in my pew, and I said, oh, my God, that's me. Oh, my God. I just hit the roof. I went straight to heaven,
Yeah.
It was so wonderful, that moment that I actually experienced him pulling me out and says, Ben, come. I want to get you closer. Let's talk, And so it was the most wonderful thing that touched my life.
That's one of those moments I have to imagine you can't ever be prepared for, other than having the grace to be able to be willing to accept it when it happens. So you've been very good with saying yes to things.
Yes, well, I think that I learned early on that was what we need to do, say yes.
And Luisa, have you truly...
No.
For the podcast listeners, we've been trying to get Luisa to do more and more stuff just with the podcast and everything else, and she's always resistant. But I'm hoping being near Sister Norma will that's right, will rub off on her. That's fantastic. I think we're going to send her again down to McAllen.
Yeah, I definitely think Luisa could fill in Mr. Walsh if you're ever.
Oh, absolutely.
You can co-host. Definitely.
I don't know about that, Pete.
Well,
then you'll do all the talking.
No, I do like the Sanchez idea too. Or Kevin, I think even that would be fun. We can talk about our Jerry Garcia ties.
Yes, I always wanted to be on radio.
It's Sister.
And there is where we can make the joke a face for radio. See, now that one, it works. that one works. You had a question for Sister Norma.
Sister Norma, so do you have a philosophy of life that you've learned throughout the years that you can share? Something that a phrase or something saying that keeps you going every day, that keeps you...
The most important thing in my life, in my days, they're very busy days, and I cannot start my day without God. I have to start my day with God because it gets pretty hectic and pretty involved, and I meet so many people and so many circumstances that I want to make sure that I am present to that moment, to that person that God has placed in before me. So God is very important in my life. I need to start by going to Mass very early in the morning. And even I'm not a morning person, but I force myself out because I think God needs to be right there at the beginning to make sure that this is not about me. It's about Him and about His people, and that's so important in our lives, because when we don't put that into the equation, we may get lost along the way in what we're doing and get confused.
I agree. I think for me, I have to make that conscious decision to put God first. Like waking up, God should be the very first thing, not, okay, I need coffee or I need to get breakfast or, glass of water. God should be right there. And I think that's something that's guided in. And what's your religious order?
I'm a missionary of Jesus. I'm a diocesan religious order that came from Spain. And the sisters that were brought by our local bishop at the time actually decided to stay there in that diocese and experiment with a different kind of administration just under the Diocese of Brownsville. So the group of sisters actually stayed there, and that's where I joined them later on.
Okay. Do you remember where from Spain?
Madrid. Yes.
Madrid? Okay.
Yes.
Just thinking. I have background there, maybe. But I don't think Madrid, though. Ancestors.
I could see you in Spain. That'd be fun.
I do want to go, and I always want to go to Spain. The tapas or the music. I have family from Cuba. That is my background. My father was born in Cuba, but
Spaniards went to Cuba, right?
Yeah. So eventually, I'm going to get to both Spain and Cuba one day.
I agree, and you can stay there and do podcasts from Spain or Cuba. I think that'd be great. Now that I have another Sanchez I can put on the podcast, I don't have to change anything. It'll be fine.
The agreement was that Peter Sanchez and Jose Sanchez would do the podcast together.
My apologies. I cannot wait until we are going to do an episode of Sanchez and Sanchez before we hit our 200th episode. I like that. So, well, you know what? It's time for us to wrap up, and thank you very much to all of you from sitting with us. But I'm just curious, Luisa, do you have any sort of last-minute thoughts about things you want to say yes to in the upcoming weeks?
No.
Okay. Okay.
We have to work on that no, right?
I know. I say you've got another 24 hours with her, Sister Norma. Let's see what you can do.
From this on, you're just going to say yes to everything, okay?
Oh, boy, that's asking a lot. Kevin, Jose, thank you very much for staying with us. We really appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And thank you, and Jose, thank you for going down repeatedly, and thank you for coming up with the idea of the pilgrimages and sending people down. And thank you to Bishop Sullivan for agreeing to it almost immediately, if not immediately, when Kevin brought it to his attention. And thank you to everyone who's helped fund it, which has been great. None of these happen without the funding of from people, so we certainly appreciate that. And if you want to donate money to making sure we keep pilgrims going down, by all means, get in touch with Mr. Hickey. But we're going to wrap up, and Pete, I'm going to say this was another good episode. And to all of our listeners, we look forward to seeing you or listening to you in a couple more weeks. And by all means, don't forget, like us on all of our social media. Make sure you like the podcast. Want 5 stars on the podcast. So if anything you can do, and certainly tell us if there are other people you'd like us to interview, because we're always looking for interesting people who are out in the South Jersey region or in the South Texas region. Now that we'll head down there at some point. Oh, hold on.
I just want to say too, Mike and I are getting the wheels spinning, trying to get for the 100th episode coming up in December. So keep praying for us. We might have a venue. We might have a date. I think we're working on the date, but we have a venue. Don't want to share anything just yet, but look forward to that. And Mike, this has been wonderful. I love your tie, by the way. I did not, we've been talking about Jared Garcia ties, but I like that green on you. I seriously do. I like that. It's a lime, right?
All right, I'm taking the microphone back. I'm also not giving it back to you. But yes, it is a lovely, it's an Irish tie from Ireland with the Trinity symbol on it that I don't know, I just felt like putting it on today. But thank you for noticing, Pete. That's very, very kind of you. And you too look good. So everybody else, thank you very much. This has been a great podcast. And we'll check in with you next week.